Hello everybody, J-Bo once again. This is my 1851 Navy Colt reassembly video and hammer spring repair. And the update on the hammer spring repair is I don't have a spare hammer spring that I thought I had. They're very cheap to buy. So I'm going to reuse this old one. Which is okay. And I do have to clean this. And it's still very hot. This screw that's on here, I loosened it. Was not easy. Oh, there we go. Be better if you could see what I'm doing. But anyway, let's angle this up a little bit. So basically, this hammer spring attaches on here with a screw. This screw was absolutely, could not loosen it, and it was starting to feel like it was going to strip. So what I did was an old trick, which is I heated it up with a torch. Okay, you have to be very careful doing that. I was using protective gloves. And so I got it hot. I held on to it, and I put this underneath a block. Then what I took was a flathead, because this precision gunsmithing bit, which I did end up bending it a little bit, is trying to loosen this. It just didn't want to break free. And this is a brass. So this isn't even into another piece of steel like it was rusted. I mean, you know, sometimes the screws on this, you got to get a good screwdriver. So what I did was, this flathead screwdriver had the leverage I wanted, but the head wouldn't quite go into that screw. So what I did was I put this on a block, put the flathead in the slot, and then I tapped with a rubber mallet. I pounded that into that slot. So I got a nice snug fit, and it actually was holding the screwdriver on its own. It wouldn't fall out. And finally, I braced it against myself and kept turning, just giving little jerky kind of movements, because you don't want to strip anything, and eventually it just let go. So these can be a pain in the rear end, and you don't want to snap the head off and leave the threaded part of the bolt in here either, because then you'll have to drill it out, tap a new hole. You know how that's, you know, and it's the bottom part of the gun. I'm sure you could probably find a replacement somewhere, but you know, it's got the serial number on it. So you don't want to go doing things like that. So just be patient with it and outsmart the piece of metal. So I wanted to replace this flat spring because it was dirty and corroded looking. And so I'm going to take it off. I'm just going to take a rag, see what we got here. There's a little bit of rust and corrosion. Yeah, that's not bad. I'll put a coating of oil on there. What I'm more concerned about is this little pocket that it was making from that little wheel on the bottom of the hammer, which you'll see when I put it back together. So after cleaning it, it doesn't look quite as bad as I initially thought, but it is deformed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a little bit of a very gentle, controlled flexing on its back opposite way, because this is bolted inside the gun, and then tension is put this way, and over time it metal fatigues this spot right here, and it softens up, and you lose some of your hammer tension, and you get light hammer strikes. So I'm not going to do anything too crazy. It should go back together just fine. So I'm going to clean this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a drop of petroleum-based oil in there when I put this back on to help it come loose next time. And the thing is, though, is you don't want this to loosen up while you're shooting and your hammer spring is floating around. So that has to be tight. Now I could use some choke tube lubrication, It'll seize that enough. I could use Loctite maybe. So I might actually put a drop of Loctite in there. That's actually what I think I'm going to do. So I think that would be the best option. Because call me kooky, I think the Loctite might actually, I used the blue one, thread blocker blue, because that won't permanently lock it. If you need to unscrew something, it'll let go. And I think that would serve two purposes. It would prevent it from seizing up like it was, and it would also keep it tight. So when I'm using the hammer, it's not going to loosen up while I'm shooting and ruin my shooting day. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that right now. This spring right here is clean enough to my satisfaction. I'm going to put a coating of Polystol. And the reason why I'm doing that is you don't want to use petroleum-based lubricants on here, because it doesn't mix with gunpowder very well at all, like at all. It makes this really awful gunk. It seizes up your gun, and you try to rotate it with the hammer, and the cylinder locks up, and you have to, and it feels like it's all rusted shut, and that's no good. So I'll get this here, find my screw, here it is. I'm going to put some thread lock on the threads, just a drop. Don't need a lot. And I'm going to take this, come saw, just like that. Just shove the screw in there like that. And what you want to do is you want to back the screw out until you feel it catch. And the reason why you want to do that is this is brass. And it's the same thing I learned in automotive in school. Is a lot of parts today are aluminum, and you back the screw out first, because once you strip that hole, you got a whole bunch of problems. You have to fill that hole and retap it, or use a bigger bolt, and then it's out of spec, and future parts will have to be custom fit. So I'm going to have this on here like this. I'm going to put a little extra. I want to make sure that stays tight. But I want to be able to loosen it again. There, that should do it. No, it's not quite in the middle. Force that over a smidge. And I'll put another. I'm just doing this by feel. I don't want to slip with the screwdriver and cut myself open. There we go. Now hopefully that won't be a friggin' headache when I have to replace this spring, because eventually it will metal fatigue. It'll either break right here, as you saw in the other video on the disassembly of this pistol. That was all full of black powder residue, which is corrosive, and it'll rust this. So I did all I could do, really. I coated it with some oil, and just have to take them apart and clean them once in a while. I clean it every time I go shooting it, but I don't do a complete disassembly, because you go shooting on a Saturday and you shoot 2 revolvers and you spend your whole friggin' day cleaning 2 black powder guns that you shot maybe 60 rounds through. So it's like, you know, plus I don't mind getting dirty. I really don't. So we get that spring back in here. I will put this back in this portion here. So the first thing we're going to do on this piece right here with the base pin thingamahoozy. I know that really annoys some people that watches these videos. I don't even know what this stuff's called. So anyway, I'm sorry I keep you from sleeping at night, but we have this bolt stop spring, and there's a spring, It's springy this way, and it has a beveled edge on it. This beveled edge is designed to go over this round nub in here that has a bevel on it. This is designed to slip like that, where one side flexes because it's a spring when you're cocking the hammer. And then it slides over this, and then that spring will snap behind that round thing. Then you're ready to fire. If this does not snap behind there, you will get cylinder lockup. You will get all kinds of timing problems. So a lot of times when you buy aftermarket, you have to do a little bit of shaping. But it's usually over this piece right here. Then sometimes you'll have this piece correct, and then this piece on the hammer has to be reshaped a little bit. So none of these parts, usually you have to do anything to it, but once in a while you'll run into a problem and you're going to have to customize something with like 2000 grit sandpaper or something like that. So anyway, let's get this back together. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this bolt stop in here. Like that. Tuck it down in its little hole so you can see it sticking out on the bottom here. That's what I just put in there, that little nub sticking up. And then you're going to take one of these screws that you took out. Just thread it through like that. Turn it a little bit until it starts to catch. I'm not going to tighten it yet. Then we're going to take the trigger, which goes in this way. And we're going to put this other pin through here and not drop the trigger. Come on, it's going to give me a hassle because I'm on camera. There we go. Goes through there like that. It'll just spin around like this. Start it a little bit. Then you want to take this flat spring, which these break very frequently. And a lot of times the 1873 Colt Revolver 6-shooter spring will fit in here, but you have to round the end of it a little bit because I believe the 1873 one has more of a sharp corner. It's not an exact square corner, but it has a little more metal on the outside. You'll see. But you can use them. This one is actually a spare You Birdie one I had for my 1873 Cattleman, and it does fit in here. I don't use Loctite on all these parts. You'll see people say that all the time. Use Loctite, your screws will come undone, and well, you have to take these apart so frequently, it is not worth the hassle. And you can do like Hickok 45 says, just check your damn screws before you go shooting. How would that be, you know? So we get that in here, and I might have just screwed up my order of things. I think I did, which would be really unfortunate. So I think I did. I think I can still get away with this. I'm gonna make it work, damn it. I will not quit. There we go. Shove that down in there. That just goes down in that slot like this. Put the hand on there, the pawl pointing in the direction where it would hit the back of the cylinder to spin it. And just drop that down in here. Like that. Push it in there. Get mad at it. I gotta get that. There we go. I had to line up that hole. And we line this through here like that. That bolt right here goes right through the hammer. Self-explanatory. There's only one hole it can go into. That's locked up. You can do a function test right now. That's locked up, ready to fire. That little wheel right here has a drop of lubricant, which is already lubricated. You can use Ballistol. I'll put another one just to make sure. Check it, make sure it spins. Sometimes these seize up, and then you end up wearing the hammer spring, which gets worn enough on its own anyway. So anyway, that's locked. So you pull the trigger, it fires. Do a half cock, full cock. So I kind of did a function check just like that. So now I'm going to go ahead and tighten these screws up because I'm satisfied with everything. All of these screws on here will seize up on you. So that's why I highly recommend getting a good screwdriver bit and don't bend the end of it like I just did. But I'm assuming that's going to straighten out on its own using it. It still has its edge. So we're going to put this on tight. Not too tight. You don't want to go snapping heads off screws. But here we go. We do a firing half cock, full cock, fire. That's functioning to my satisfaction. So anyway, I'm going to put some lube on there. We'll let it sit there. Now this part right here, putting this together, is you have to make sure the hammer catches, and I don't like where that flat spring is sitting. Ugh. Move that over. Make sure that is lined up. More. Ooh, that's very tight. That's what I wanted. All right, that looks good. So what you want to do, the trick to this, is you want to hold your hammer in this assembly like this. Get a good firm grip on it, because you're going to want to come down this way on top of that spring, because that wheel has to be on top of that spring for reassembly. So you just kind of like put it in there like that, and then you just hold some tension to it like this. You just hold it together with your hands. If you have small, weak hands, I don't know what to tell you. You want to get at least one screw started so it will hold that. Make sure you don't cross thread it. And once you have this screw in there, I'm not going to tighten that yet. I just want to put that in there. See, now it'll hold everything together with that spring underneath the hammer, and you no longer have to hold it because there's tension on that. So I will start this screw. And this, again, make sure you don't cross thread. Take your time. This is brass, okay? Steel with brass. If you cross thread it, you're going to strip the hole, which is worse than stripping a screw. So now, I just verified there was tension under that spring, because if there wasn't, you'd have a very difficult, you would not have a difficult time putting this back together. This had to required some, and then now I'm clamping it down with my thumb, holding it like that until I get these screws in here. Like that. And this screw head here is so magnetized that sometimes it fights me. So again, make sure you don't cross thread. There, I just felt that catch. So that is something they will teach you. Oops. I don't want to make myself bleed on camera. Thank you very much. There we go. Now you want to feel it catch. Boy, that magnet is strong. Goodness. It's counterproductive. Alright, so we start putting those screws in there like that. So far, so good. Now, when I put this together, you'll notice these two screws are different. And you want to make sure you don't mix these screws up because they're threaded the same as far as the threads. But you will see these two that I'm holding are the same. So I did that on purpose because I wanted to show you. That means one of these screws in here come on. There we go. So anyway, these are both the same. This one that's right here and this one that's right here. These two are different. These four are different. So these two are the same as these two. So you have four that are identical. This one's the same as this one. And when these ones that go through, this one is the same as the other one. The hammer bolt is different. So I hope that covers all that. That's what I wanted to explain. I thought I had actually put a screw in the wrong hole. I actually wanted to do that on purpose, and I didn't. So I put it together properly by mistake. So I wanted to show the different screws, and it kind of messed up my thing. So I should have just gone with my initial presentation like normal. So anyway, we'll put this one in here. And the last screw that I put on, which you'll see in the other videos, the first one I take out is this one. And that's because you can see that tension, how that doesn't line up. Now, if you go ahead and tighten these first, it's a good idea because the brass is not sticking up further than this and you don't have a lip right here. I will guarantee you, if you tighten these two down first and then you tighten this, that is going to raise up and you'll have a sharp edge there. So doing it over time, I just kind of got used to it that these were the two that I tightened first because those are the way I want them. And it never seems like you can ever get everything equal. So, you know, you would rather have something different somewhere else where it's not going to be felt by you, I guess is my point. It's whatever your preference is. If you don't mind knife edges sticking up here, then do it that way. But I'm going to put this in here. What I should do is tighten these now. That. Now we should be okay. I'm going to tighten this one. That's tight. Well, this is the last one to tighten. And just tighten it until it tightens. I back up first so I can feel it catch. There we go. We do not want to strip your holes. And you will see that gap. You'll see that gap close up as I tighten. See that? And this is where my little lip, there's a little lip ridge you can feel here. Now, if it really bothers you, you could grind that down and get rid of that. But as you can see, it's worn out over time on its own. I don't feel it when I'm holding the pistol. So let's do a function test. Half cock, full cock, hammer locks. The pawl can be seen in there functioning like it should. The bolt stop has tension. Now watch that little nub down there. That's what goes in the little notches in the barrel. That should pop down and half cock. That allows you to rotate your barrel to load it. Takes that stop out of the way. Then it comes back up, locks your barrel in place to shoot.